So welcome to the Two-Man Advantage podcast. I'm here with Kevin McShan via Skype for the first time on our podcast. Well, we need to talk about the big news in our local area anyway, in the Detroit and Windsor area, and that's Ndamukong Suh heading to the Miami Dolphins for a little bit of money, just a little bit.
Taking his talents to South Beach, absolutely.
It's the LeBron James of the NFL. But the Lions make a shrewd move and go get Haloti Ngata. Now, some people are on both sides of the fence. Some people say it's a great move. Other people say it's not that great of a move because you give up 2 mid-round picks, a 4th and a 5th, for an aging veteran. He's 31 years old. He's been to 5 Pro Bowls. He's made 5 All-Pros. So the guy is obviously a talented guy, but how can you move forward with him? That's the question. He's only underneath a 1-year deal. What do you think the plans are moving forward for defensive tackle for the Lions?
Well, I think this. I think the Lions panicked a little bit after they lost to Ndamukong Suh. I didn't think that they believed that a team out there would go as high as the Dolphins did. And after Suh left, they were kind of in a rock and a hard place. With this move, they have no draft picks now in the 2010 draft. And if Nick Fairley leaves, that's 2 drafts where they don't have any picks from. But going back to Suh, he didn't want to be here in the first place because if he wanted to be here, the deal would have been done last summer. So he wanted to be in a bigger market. He wanted to be coveted from a marketing standpoint. In order to do that, in his mind, he needed a bigger market. But in terms of the Lions, he didn't want to be here in the first place. But with that being said, Mayhew and Lewand bounced this from the very beginning.
But to be honest, I think they get a pass here. I think Martin Mayhew really did something that everybody didn't really think he would be able to do. You went from the top echelon of guys in Ndamukong Suh, and then you also had a guy you drafted, Nick Fairley, both talented guys, both can get to the quarterback, both are going to command a lot of money. But you lose those 2 and you have an opportunity to go get Haloti Ngata, which is, if he's not the top echelon, he's just a tad bump underneath Suh. If you're not going to have Suh, Ngata's probably the guy you want, if not Gerald McCoy and a couple other guys. But, I mean, he's a great talent, and he's on your team now. And, you go, you're talking about was it Langford? So, Kendall Langford from St. Louis come in. Yeah. There's a couple of guys they were talking about. Now that's a big drop-off from Ndamukong Suh. Haloti Ngata puts him still in the question to possibly win a division again this year. Maybe it's just a repeat of last year. They have an opportunity to go to the playoffs and maybe make a run. Now, I want to hit on one thing here. Now, the 4th and 5th round pick, for everybody that's saying that they gave away 2 mid-round picks. Now, I know the Pittsburgh Steelers, they draft well in the mid-rounds, and that's how they build their team. The New England Patriots, the Baltimore Ravens, there's multiple teams that can do that. But I don't know if the Lions are one of them. So are they really going to miss the 4th and 5th round picks? So since 2010, I want to name off all the 4th and 5th round picks that the Detroit Lions have made, and we're going to see who would you rather have, the guys that I'm going to name off or Haloti Ngata. So Doug Hogue,
So he was a linebacker, played special teams. He didn't make the team. Jason Fox, he was a left tackle, got hurt, moved into right. He was up and down. He's not on a team. Tahir Whitehead. Now, maybe that one is the only guy that has a check mark beside it. Of course, he took over for Stephen Tulloch last year when Tulloch went down with that ACL injury. You go to Ron Al Lewis. He was a special teamers guy. He's still not on the team. Chris Greenwood, I think he was did some stints with the practice squad. He went to the Cowboys, and he come back, and he's not on the team. You got Sam Martin, which is your punter. So maybe that's another asterisk beside it, but he also did have a 10-yard shank in the playoffs. We'll go to Nevin Lawson, which is a young cornerback, undersized, didn't start this year because he got hurt. You have Larry Webster. It was a defensive end. And then you also have Karan Reed, which is defensive tackle. Both guys are still on their team, but at the end of the day, if I said Larry Webster and Karan Reed or Haloti Ngata, what are we talking about here? So everybody on that list, majority of them aren't even on the team anymore. You have your punter and you have Tahir Whitehead. So you have two legitimate players on your team, or you have Haloti Ngata.
Well, yeah, you make valid points. I mean, the players you just listed off, they were nothing but special teamers anyway. But you're missing the bigger points here. I think Lewand and Mayhew misplayed that hand in terms of not insulating themselves when they had the chance, because Suh had the leverage. Now, let me say this. $102 million and $58 million guaranteed is nothing to sneeze at. And I think the Dolphins ultimately overpaid for Ndamukong Suh. I mean, they were cutting players left and right in order to keep him. But
pay for Suh. That was the thing. Everybody was going to pay for overpay for Suh. And I think my status doesn't change on this. Did I think the Lions were going to try to tag him? Yeah, I did at one point, because I think the Lions have been so
they weren't going to tag him because the number was too
They, like you said, they put themselves in that corner. Now, if you really step back and look at it, I think he's going to hinder any franchise he goes to, regardless of his talent, just because of the amount of money that he's making.
Yeah, he goes to the end of that contract.
He's going to the Dolphins, and there's talk about them possibly having to cut Grimes. There's possibility of them having to cut Wallace. There's a possibility of them having to part with a couple of the young linebackers. So really, is it really worth dismantling some of your core team to add this piece that's going to make a lot of money? And we know how it goes when guys make big money in free agency. We know how it goes. They sink like a rock. So is Ndamukong Suh ever going to have 10 sacks again? Maybe. But if you had a gun to my head, I'd probably say.
You mean a season?
Yes. Sorry, 10 sacks in a season. So because he did that in his rookie year, but he hasn't done it since. So is he going to have 8.5 sacks, 10 sacks in a season for the Miami Dolphins? No, Cameron Wake, everybody talks about that too. I think he's an aging outside linebacker, defensive end, a pass rusher. That's the guy you're going to be pairing with Suh. I think his situation in Detroit was a lot better. But the Lions,
he took the money. He didn't want to win. He wanted to take the money. He was going to go to the highest bidder anyway.
And at the end of the day, I'm really happy the Lions weren't the highest bidder, because they saved money and you got a guy that's pretty damn good in Ngata.
Well, here's another aspect for the Lions. Do they look at transforming to a 3-4 defense now, or at least partial of it? Because the strength of their team now assuming fairly is their linebackers. I mean, you've got Tulloch coming back, Ashley Palmer, and Tahir Whitehead had good seasons, and Levy now could get extended with the money they saved for Suh. So what do you think about the Lions possibly transitioning to a 34 defense?
That last word you used is the key word for me, and that's transition. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous, even though Terrell Austin did coach a 3-4 in Baltimore and did have Haloti Ngata, it takes time to transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4. And if the Lions are going to make a playoff run and are going to be serious, I think that's one of the question marks you have to really raise. Is it worth the transition from that 4-3 to 3-4 to really maybe lose a spot and maybe winning your division or maybe getting into the playoffs because you're in that transitional period and moving defenses. Personally, I I don't think there's been a 3-4 defense in the NFC North besides Green Bay, right? So the Bears are going to
runs one, yeah.
So, you think about it, maybe this is the key to slowing down Aaron Rodgers. Now, nobody's going to really slow down Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, like maybe throwing a different look in the division and playing him twice a year, along with the Chicago Bears, which is also transferring to a 3-4. I would like to see how that shakes out. So I think they ultimately do transition to a 3-4, but I don't know if it's going to be a painful birth or not. For all Lions fans, I hope not.
Last thing I want to touch on with this is, what do they do with the 23rd pick in the draft now? Do they go on defensive tackle? Do they draft a running back since they've lost Reggie Bush or didn't resign Reggie Bush? They could also use some help in the secondary as well and along their offensive line. So does this move change at all the Lions' draft outlook heading into the 2015 draft?
I think ultimately obviously all depends on what they do in the next couple of days in free agency. I think there's still some cornerbacks out there that they're interested in. There's an offensive guard that they're interested in. I've also heard Jake Long's name kicked around. Do I think that's possible? Probably not.
But the Victors.
Hey, you go ask any U of M fan if Jake Long's coming to Detroit. I'm sure they'll be saying yes. They've already bought their jerseys. But
well, if he does, I mean, that gives them the flexibility to move.
I don't think they have
Riley Reef.
At $9.5 million, I don't think they have the cap space. You're getting into a troubled area. Ultimately, I think they signed.
But how much does Jake Long really have left, though?
Jake Long's been in the league for 7 years, and the Lions have $9.5 million.
But he's got a history of injuries too.
So does Nick Fairley. He's getting paid. So he's going to get paid by a couple different teams. You got Cincinnati that's interested in him. I know he went in with Indianapolis. I don't know if that drove up the price. But I guarantee that Nick Fairley gets more money than he should. And that's what happens on the market. So what I ultimately think they're going to do is I think they're going to sign a defensive back in free agency, and I think they're going to really focus on the offensive line in the draft. Just because that's a lot of times where the guys come from. If you sign offensive linemen in free agency, most of the time you're spending too much, and you're getting a guy that's a little long in the tooth. You want somebody that is a young buck, is coming out of college. You can fit him into your system. He doesn't have to learn new tendencies and anything like that. So I think that they're going to go that way with the draft. I really think they're going to go O-line. But who knows, right? Martin Mayhew and Tom Lewand and the Detroit Lions have kept this
close. The clown show that's running this organization now?
Kept it close to the vest from the start. So it's really hard to tell where they're going to go, but I really think they're going to go after a defensive back. Maybe it's Rasheed Mathis, bringing back their own guy, and then maybe they draft a guy later in the second and third round. But I don't think they take a running back in the first round. I think they go O-line because they need some protection up front. And really, if they re-sign a guard, it would probably be Rob Sims to probably groom a young Travis Swanson or Riley Reef, just like they did in the past couple of years.
Travis Swanson's taking over at center for Royola, but yeah.
What I was saying is that they drafted Swanson and then had Dominic Royola kind of groom him. Same thing with Riley Reef. They had Jeff Backus there, and then Reef kind of slid in. So that's where I'm expecting the Lions to go. What's to come, we'll see. But, anything is good because they have some holes to fill still, especially in a defensive backfield.
Thanks for joining us on this late edition of the Two-Man Advantage podcast.
Check us out on 2MApodcast.com, and we're going to have some Maple Leaf stuff coming up because, they're making a push for the #1 pick. Some NHL talk coming up soon in the next couple of days on the Two-Man Advantage podcast. Thanks for listening, and go Leos.